Hello, welcome to this video. I'm Ellen Cool. I am here with a very late movie wrap-up for the year of 2025, where I discuss all the movies that I watched in 2025, my thoughts and my favorites, my least favorites, and even the stats. So sorry that this video is so late. It is in typical Ellen form to be late with videos, but the beginning of 2026 has been very crazy and hectic and frustrating, so haven't had a whole lot of time to film. Hopefully I edit quicker than filming. Ignore the books behind me. We're not talking about books. I just filmed my book video. If you don't want spoilers, because some of what's behind me is spoilers, you can go ahead and watch that video right now. But we're talking about movies, and I have a lot of movies to discuss with you. So first we're going to start with stats. I watched 135 movies. Here they all are divided by month. I always watch a lot more movies towards the end of the month, or towards the end of the year, because I'm also watching all of like the Hallmark Lifetime Christmas movies, which I do not count those in my like top or bottom movies because I rate the Christmas movies differently than real movies. Not that it's not a real movie, but like, I hope you understand what I mean. I need to rate those cheesy movies differently than the movies that are like in theaters. But for stats reasons, we're including those. And my best month was definitely December with 37 movies. And then my worst month was July with only 2 movies. And I think it's because that was the month that I decided to read 31 books in 31 days. So I was focusing on reading. And here's also the breakdown by minutes that I watched. Again, best was December, worst was July. This seems pretty similar to the monthly one. I watched a total of 13,782 minutes, which equates to about 229.7 hours of movie watching. I watched a total of 10 different genres. My main genre was romance, and again, that is probably because of all the Christmas romance movies that I watch. If I'm not including that, I don't know what the stat would be. Maybe it would be whatever's in second place, which is comedy. This is the breakdown of the minutes by like movie length, essentially. So like most of the movies I watch are the typical length, which is between 90 and 120 minutes, which is between an hour and a half and 2 hours. But I did watch the movies that were under 90 minutes. Those are pretty much my Christmas romance Hallmark movies. A few that were like between the 2-hour, 2.5-hour mark, and one that was over 2.5 hours. Now, the format in which I watched them, most of the movies I watched were in theaters. TV essentially are just, again, the Hallmark and Lifetime Christmas movies that I watched, but I did also watch a few that were digital, 3 that I watched physically, meaning like I watched like the physical DVD or Blu-ray of them. Now, if we break down the digital movies that I watched, most of them were from Netflix, but I did watch some Prime, Apple, Disney, Hulu, and Peacock. Most of the movies that I watched were rated R, but I actually have kind of like a good sporadic amount of ratings that I watched. After R, most of the other ones are all pretty even with each other. And this is like never going to change either, but most of the movies that I watched were from 2025. I typically tend to watch movies that came out that year, but there are a few in there that were from 2024 and other years. And I do include those movies within my top 10 and bottom 10 of the year. Then here are my star ratings of these movies. It's mostly within that like 4, 3, 3.5 range, which is just kind of like average, which is unfortunate. And then my average rating is 3.5 right on the dot. I would prefer for that to be higher. I would like for at least a 3.6 or 3.7. But yeah, there was a lot of average movies this year, unfortunately. And then the last stat that I have is the gender of the director. And it is a male-dominated industry, so most of the directors were male. Laughing and crying, it doesn't happen as often with movies as it used to, but there were 15 movies that made me laugh, and there were 18 movies that made me cry. And I'm not saying like sobbing, just like maybe a tear or two down the cheek. Maybe a few of them were sobbing, but most of them was just like a few tears here and there. And now for this portion of the video, most people tend to, I feel like, skip this part of videos, which is totally fine. I love these parts of videos, which is why I do it. But I'm just gonna literally go through every single movie that I watched in the order that I watched it, and I will include the Christmas movies in that, in this little section. But I won't include Christmas movies for my like top 10, bottom 10. I'm gonna do it separately. I'm gonna have a separate bottom and top of Christmas movies, and then bottom and top of not Christmas movies. But first, let's just go through every single movie that I watched. So the first movie I watched was The Last Showgirl, which I gave 3 stars. Back in Action, I gave 3.5 stars. Flight Risk, I gave 3 stars. You're Cordially Invited, I gave 3 stars. One of Them Days, I gave 4 stars. Valiant One, I gave 3 stars. Heart Eyes, I gave 3.5 stars. Companion, I gave 4.5 stars. La Dolce Villa, I gave 3.5 stars. Love Hurts, I gave 2 stars. The Gorge, I gave 4 stars. Paddington in Peru, I gave 3 stars. Cleaner, I gave 4 stars. My Dead Friend Zoe, I gave 4 stars. Last Breath, I gave 3.5 stars. Picture This, I gave 3 stars. Novocaine, I gave 4 stars. Mickey 17, I gave 4 stars. Black Bag, I gave 2.5 stars. Locked, I gave 4 stars. Death of a Unicorn, I gave 3.5 stars. A Working Man, I gave 3.5 stars. Moana 2, I gave 3 stars. Hell of a Summer, I gave 3 stars. Drop, I gave 3.5. The Wedding Banquet, I gave 4 stars. Warfare, I gave 3 stars. Sinners, I gave 4 stars. Fight or Flight, I gave 3.5 stars. Juliet and Romeo, I gave 2.5 stars. Fountain of Youth, I gave 3 stars. Friendship, I gave 2.5 stars. Jane Austen Wrecked My Life, I gave 4.5 stars. Karate Kid Legends, I gave 4 stars. I Don't Understand You, I gave 3.5 stars. Thunderbolts, I gave 4 stars. The Life of Chuck, I gave 4 stars. How to Train Your Dragon, the live action, I gave 4 stars. Materialists, I gave 4.5 stars. Nonas, I gave 3.5 stars. Elio, I gave 3.5 stars. The Life List, I gave 4 stars. Deep Cover, I gave 3.5 stars. K-Pop Demon Hunters, I gave 3.5 stars. Zombies 4 Dawn of the Vampires, I gave 3.5 stars. Oh Hi, I gave 4.5 stars. My Oxford Year, I gave 3 stars. Freakier Friday, I gave 4 stars. The Map That Leads to You, I gave 3.5 stars. Splitsville, I gave 4 stars. The Roses, I gave 4 stars. Twinless, I gave 3.5 stars. The Threesome, I gave 5 stars. Downton Abbey, the grand finale, I gave 3.5 stars. Spinal Tap, The End Continues, I gave 3.5 stars. The History of Sound, I gave 3 stars. A Big Bold Beautiful Journey, I gave 4.5 stars. Play Dirty, I gave 3 stars. Kiss of the Spider Woman, I gave 2 stars. Maintenance Required, I gave 3 stars. Roof Man, I gave 4 stars. Haul Out the Halloween, I gave 2.5 stars. The Woman in Cabin 10, I gave 3 stars. A Royal Montana Christmas, I gave 3 stars. A Christmas Angel Match, I gave 3.5 stars. Good Fortune, I gave 4.5 stars. The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, I gave 4.5 stars. Yes, 2025 is the year I watched The Lord of the Rings for the first time. And then I watched The Lord of the Rings The Two Towers, which I gave 4 stars. And The Lord of the Rings The Return of the King, I gave 5 stars. Merry Christmas Ted Cooper, I gave 4 stars. Begonia, I gave 4 stars. Christmas on Duty, I gave 3 stars. Anniversary, I gave 3.5 stars. Joy to the World, I gave 4.5 stars. A Newport Christmas, I gave 4 stars. Christmas Above the Clouds, I gave 3 stars. A Keller Christmas Vacation, I gave 3.5 stars. Regretting You, I gave 4 stars. The Running Man, I gave 4.5 stars. Now You See Me, I gave 3.5 stars. Three Wisest Men, I gave 3.5 stars. A Very Jonas Christmas Movie, I gave 3.5 stars. Tidings for the Season, I gave 4 stars. Wicked for Good, I gave 4 stars. Now You See Me 2, I gave 4 stars. Now You See Me, Now You Don't, I gave 3.5 stars. Holiday Touchdown, A Bill's Love Story, I gave 3 stars. Melt My Heart This Christmas, I gave 2 stars. Champagne Problems, I gave 5 stars. We Met in December, I gave 3 stars. Hamnet, I gave 4.5 stars. A Merry Little Xmas, I gave 3.5 stars. The Snow Must Go On, I gave 3 stars. Frankenstein, the Guillermo del Toro version, I gave 4 stars. An Alpine Holiday, I gave 3.5 stars. A Grand Ole Opry Christmas, I gave 3.5 stars. Eternity, I gave 4.5 stars. Jingle Bell Heist, I gave 4 stars. Feckham Hall, I gave 3 stars. Rental Family, I gave 3.5 stars. She's Making a List, I gave 4 stars. 100 Nights of Hero, I gave 4 stars. Sentimental Value, I gave 3 stars. Merry Mist Connection, I gave 2 stars. Christmas at the Catnip Cafe, I gave 5 stars. The More the Merrier, I gave 2.5 stars. Christmas Every Day, I gave 1.5 stars. The Christmas Cup, I gave 2 stars. The Christmas Campaign, I gave 1.5 stars. Jingle All the Way to Love, I gave 3 stars. Single on the 25th, I gave 5 stars. Do You Fear What I Fear, I gave 2.5 stars. Dust Bunny, I gave 3.5 stars. A Christmas Cookbook, I gave 3 stars. A Runaway Bride for Christmas, I gave 2.5 stars. Deck the Hallways, I gave 2 stars. Five Nights at Freddy's 2, I gave 3 stars. Ella McKay, I gave 3.5 stars. Christmas in Alaska, I gave 4 stars. A Sweet Holiday Romance, I gave 3 stars. Thank God, Christmas at Keller Ranch, I gave 4 stars. Oi to the World, I gave 4 stars. Merv, I gave 3 stars. My Secret Santa, I gave 4 stars. A Make or Break Holiday, I gave 3 stars. Rodeo Christmas Romance, I gave 3.5 stars. Oh What Fun, I gave 2.5 stars. Sweet Holiday Romance, I gave 2.5 stars. A Pickleball Christmas, I gave 4 stars. The Christmas Baby, I gave 4.5 stars. Wake Up Dead Man, I gave 4 stars. Playdate, I gave 2.5 stars. Swiped, I gave 4.5 stars. Anaconda, I gave 3 stars. And then the last movie that I watched was No Other Choice, and I gave it 3.5 stars. So first, let's just talk a little bit about the Christmas movies. I'm just gonna really talk about my bottom 5 and my top 5. So my bottom 5, it's not surprising that most of them are Lifetime Christmas movies. I tend to not like the Lifetime Christmas movies, but there's always 1 or 2 Lifetime Christmas movies every year that I like. But it's the other 9 or 10 that are just awful. The one at the very bottom is the Christmas Campaign. I feel like I don't have much to say about these movies, but this was just, my God, acting was terrible, the story was terrible, the romance I did not like. We've got a girl who works in marketing, and she's supposed to market these Christmas underwear line, and her boss hires someone to help her, some consultant or something, and they really butt heads a lot, but in the end they fall in love. And it was not good. Right above that is Christmas Every Day. I was really hoping to like this one because it stars Brandy. Yeah, I didn't like that there was a little tiny bit of a cheating element in this one, because Brandy is in a relationship with someone, which granted, he's not very attentive. He's not a very great guy to be in a relationship with. But then she starts falling for her mom's handyman, who's helping her mom around the house. And it's just the flirting that happens. And I'm like, girl, you need to remember you have a guy. If you're going to flirt with this guy, I need you to break up with your man. Yeah. So again, also the story sucked. The acting was awful. The acting is awful for all of these ones that are in the bottom. Right above that one is the Christmas Cup. This is a Hallmark one that I really didn't like it. But it's these 2 towns every year compete for the Christmas Cup and all these different Christmas challenges. And our girl is back home from the military, and she reluctantly agrees to coach her town's team. And she kind of works with, I guess, the head firefighter guy. But also this is the last year they're doing this competition, because the towns are now becoming one town. The jurisdiction is changing and they're gonna be one town. I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. And then above that we have Deck the Hallways, which the granddaughter was pissing me off because she kept judging her grandmother, with her grandmother going out, and I just want to be let your grandmother live her life. She seems like a great grandmother who's really living it up, and clearly this is how she is dealing with her grief of losing her husband. Let her deal with her grief the way she needs to and wants to. Stop judging her for it. And it was pissing me off. And a lot of the dialogue just didn't make a lot of sense. And I also think that there were probably scenes in between other scenes that got cut, because I swear there was a scene where our 2 main people, the couple that are supposed to be a couple, they had a huge fight, and then the next scene it was just like automatic, like, did we forget the fight happened? Because like now you guys like each other. Like I thought you guys were mad and hated each other, and now no resolving of that fight at all. And then the last one in my bottom 5 is Mary Missed Connection. Barely remember this movie. I just remember her outfit at the very end. I did not like it. Other than that, I don't really quite remember the plot line of this one. And then my top 5 Christmas movies was Joy to the World. Chad Michael Murray, love the man. He's always in a Christmas movie every year, and I'm so happy that this one was better than the one last year. But this one was, it had a very fun concept for me. We have like this woman who's a cookbook author, and she is like, this is her last cookbook within her like 12 book series that she had, and it was Christmas themed. And for like these 12 years, she has told her audience like, yes, my husband, we do this and that, we've got our 2 kids, and it's just like perfect and wonderful, our lives. But she's been lying this whole time. She doesn't have a husband. She doesn't have kids. But now for the promotion of this last book, they're doing it at her home with her husband and kids and family and whatnot. She's like, oh crap, I actually don't have a family. So she hires basically her driver to be her husband, which is Chad Michael Murray. She hires these 2 neighbor kids to be her kids. And then she hires her like maid and her mailman to be her parents. And then of course, as you know, things blow up, the truth gets revealed. I don't know, there was something about it that was just so fun, and Chad Michael Murray is always so charming. At number 4, I have The Christmas Baby. This is the one queer Hallmark Christmas movie that comes out. This is about a lesbian couple. They don't really want kids, but then all of a sudden a kid, like a baby, is dropped off essentially on their doorstep. And they're like dealing with child services to try to find a home for it. But in the meantime, they're fostering the kid. And then they actually grow to really love the kid. And then when the kid's gone, they're like, oh, wait a minute. Wait, maybe we do want the kid. And it was just honestly like a really beautiful story. And I felt the communication between our couples was actually like good communication. Even when they were like fighting with each other or disagreeing with each other, they were at least like communicating their feelings and emotions. I think from here on out, these are the movies that made me cry. So yeah, I like this one. At number 3, I have Champagne Problems. This is the Netflix Christmas movie that I liked the most. But like also, you're giving me a French man, so I'm gonna fall in love. Also a French man who likes to read and drink wine. Yeah, I'm gonna fall in love. So we have our girl who is, I forget what kind of company she works for, because I thought it was like lawyers, but maybe it's not lawyers. But basically her company is trying to acquire these like small businesses and make them into bigger businesses than they were before. And so she really wants this like champagne business that's in France. So she goes there along with a couple other people that are also vying for this business and want to take it on. So she has to compete with a couple other people. She ends up falling for the son of the owner. And I just, oh God, I swooned. Yeah, I really liked the guy in this one, is essentially the main reason why this is so high up on the list. But yeah, it is found out that like her company is actually doing shady things. Or they want to do shady things with this company. And it's like the sense of conflict that happens within this. And number 2, I have Christmas at the Catnip Cafe. Paul Campbell is one of my favorite Hallmark leading men. He's not my favorite, but I want to say he's in like my top 5, maybe? My number 1 is Andrew Walker, and will always be Andrew Walker. But I love Paul Campbell. And I was really happy with this one. I'm not much of a cat person, so sorry to anybody out there who is. But like, I feel like everybody I know has cats and loves cats, so I've grown to like cats more. But like, this was so cute, and I think a really good enemies to lovers romance. We have this woman who, her aunt has died, and in the aunt's will has given her half ownership of a cat cafe. And so she meets with like the owner who owns the other half, and tries to like convince him to sell the place so she can get some money so she can buy the house that she wants. But he obviously does not want to sell. He wants to keep the cat cafe. He's like, this community loves this place. So just give me a couple of days, basically like until Christmas, to convince you to not sell this cafe. And if I don't convince you, then I will sell my portion of the cafe. So of course, he convinces her by the end. And they have a great romance, and it made me cry. But I will say the romance isn't what made me cry. What made me cry was one of the side characters is like this little boy who comes almost every day. He has an attachment to this one cat. Like, he really wants this cat to like to take home. But right now he's in foster care, and his fosters don't want to like get the cat in case they're not able to adopt him. But then the part that made me cry was they came into the cafe and they're like, we got the adoption papers and we would like to get the cat, take him home. And the little kid turned and called her mom for the first time. And it was just like, oh, it broke my heart open, because the look on her face hearing him call her mom for the first time was just, oh my goodness, it was heartwarming. And then my number one favorite Christmas movie of the year was Single on the 25th. And I think it's because I related to it so much. I am always single on the 25th, and I hate it every year because Christmas is like that time where it's like, hey, romance is really in the air. And unfortunately not with me. But it's about these two people who are very single, and they try to do things around the Christmas time as single people, but they're doing it together, and they're trying to like teach each other how to be single at a party by yourself, or how to be single doing this by yourself, like how to be single around the family. So they like teach each other how to be single, but yet they're doing all these things together. And so of course they realize they really like being with each other and doing things together, and it's very romantic. And I cried because his little thing at the very end, when he like reveals the like the fortune cookie fortunes from the beginning of the movie, oh my god, I was crying. Now it is time for my bottom 10 and top 10 movies of the year, starting with the bottom 10. First, just a few honorable mentions for my bottom 10. So like basically the 5 that didn't quite make it into my bottom 10, but they still were like meh movies for me. So at the top of my honorable mentions is Sentimental Value. I know this was just like nominated for Golden Globes, and I think it even won a Golden Globe, but to me this was one of the boringest movies I've ever watched. I really wanted to like this movie because the concept at least was interesting, but I didn't like it. Below that, Flight Risk. It was fine. Below that one is The Woman in Cabin 10. I also read the book for this one, and that, spoiler alert, book is also in my bottom 10 of 2025. Then after that, You're Cordially Invited. One I was hoping to at least enjoy, but it really fell flat for me. And then the last one that didn't quite make my bottom 10, but almost made my bottom 10, is Valiant One. Yeah, as I said, a lot of filming qualities that just felt very film student-y rather than professional. At number 10, I've got Picture This. It had its very funny moments. I will say there were parts that I enjoyed about this movie, but ultimately it really didn't do anything for me. But this is like a rom-com that I don't really have many memories of. I watched it earlier, like in the beginning of the year, and it was okay. Again, parts were funny, parts were fun, but overall, didn't really do it for me. All right, at number 9 for my bottom 10, I have Feckham Hall. This is supposed to be like a very satire, dirty humor version of Downton Abbey. So I love Downton Abbey, and I also don't mind people making fun of Downton Abbey. Like, that's not the part that I didn't like about this. It's just not my humor. But when I saw this in the theater, so many people in the theater were laughing. That's totally fine, valid. You laugh. It's not my sense of humor. It's very crude and dumb. I think there was only like one part that really made me laugh. I was like, okay, that's smart humor right there. I like what they did there. But otherwise, it was just not my kind of humor. At number 8, I have Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I am a girl who watches every single Josh Hutcherson movie, so no matter what he's in, I watch it. And this, I actually think I liked the first one better than this one. The ending I think is the one that pissed me off the most. Like, the ending didn't make sense character choices wise. Like, I think a lot of the choices certain characters made, especially at the end, but also throughout the movie, just didn't make sense to me. Like, it was just kind of like, I don't think this character would have said that or this character would have done that. And it was just really frustrating. I'm obviously gonna watch the third one because, of course, Josh Hutcherson's in it. This is just like a horror movie about these animatronics that essentially come to life. A lot of things just didn't logically make sense with this one, which is why it's so low on the list. And number 7, I have My Oxford Year. A romance that I was hoping to like, but it was very boring. And that's all I have to say about this one. It was boring. And number 6, I have Juliet and Romeo, another one I was really hoping to love because I love the Romeo and Juliet story by Shakespeare. I've watched so many of those renditions. My favorite is still the 60s version of Romeo and Juliet. And this one also was like a musical and they tried to make it more modern. I was not really into a lot of the music. I think there's only one song that I really liked. And they tried to make this more like, I guess, feminist. Was like their more modern take on it, which I don't mind, but like it just didn't work with this story. I don't know, there was just a lot of elements about this, like writing wise, acting wise, dialogue wise, that just wasn't good. And number 5 is Black Bag. I know a lot of people loved this movie. People I know who saw this movie and loved it. I didn't like it. I was bored out of my mind watching this movie. I don't know. I just didn't have a fun time with this one. I didn't enjoy it. That's all I have to say. At number 4, I have Friendship. This is another one that a lot of people I think liked, but to me, it was not my kind of humor. It was also like a comedy thriller. So this one is following this guy. His wife is like forcing him to become friends with some of the other guys in the neighborhood. He meets Paul Rudd's character and they really hit it off. They become good friends. This guy is just so awkward. And there were so many parts in this movie that made me cringe. And I just think that that's the type of humor they were going for, but it's not the type of humor that I like. Like, to me, it didn't come off as funny. It didn't come across as funny. It came across as just like cringy and like, please get me out of this situation. Please get away from this scene. Things start to really fall apart and go haywire with the friendship between these two guys. I didn't have a fun time with this one. And number 3, I have Playdate. This I wasn't expecting much from to begin with, but I also wasn't expecting it to be in my bottom. But I didn't really have that much fun with it. But it's an action comedy. And I think the reason I didn't really like it was just because most of it was kind of stupid. And the acting wasn't that great. But we have this guy played by Kevin James who has a son and they're having like a father-son time. And they're at the park and they meet this other father-son duo that seem very intense and aggressive. And the two boys become friends. And so the one dad's like, yeah, let's have a play date. And you know what? Let's you and me be friends too. And then it just goes wild after that because there are some like government officials after this one kid. And it just, yeah. I don't think it really hit the mark. At number 2, I have Love Hurts. This one also hurts because I really wanted to love this movie, but the writing was just so bad and the fight choreography was not good. I didn't like the way the fight choreography was filmed. And I don't think the story made much sense. And it was all over the place. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. And then number 1, my least favorite movie of the year was Kiss of the Spider Woman. I went into this with an open mind. I'm not a huge J-Lo fan. I mean, obviously used to be way back in like the early 2000s. But the more I learn about J-Lo, the more I don't like her. But I went in with an open mind because I really wanted to enjoy this. It's a musical drama where we have this guy who's in prison and he's basically telling the story of his favorite movie, Kiss of the Spider Woman, to his cellmate. But the story that he's telling is also kind of relating to what's happening in the real world in their time, and like what's going on with their lives and their situation with each other. And they end up forming a relationship with each other. But for me, I didn't understand J-Lo's part in this movie. I didn't get what she was supposed to be representing. It was just a lot of confusion. And then I was unhappy with the way it ended, if I'm being honest. And I also didn't like any of the songs. I'm upset that I didn't like this movie, but I didn't like this movie. Now let's move on and talk about my top movies of the year. Obviously, we're going to start with some honorable mentions, and I just really want to put more than 5 in my honorable mentions. Honestly, I want to put even more than 10 in my honorable mentions, but I gotta stick with, I can't just say like every movie. But yeah, so I'm going to do 10 honorable mentions and then my top 10. And I'm not going to talk a whole lot about my honorable mentions. I'm just going to state them in order. So at the bottom of my honorable mentions is Mickey 17. And then above that is The Life List. Above that one is Freakier Friday. Above that one is Wake Up Dead Man. And then above that, so at number 16 is 100 Nights of Hero. Above that at 15 is The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. At 14 is the live action version of How to Train Your Dragon. At 13 is A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey. 12 is Oh Hi. And then at number 11, I have The Running Man. All right, now let's talk about my top 10. At number 10, I have Swiped. This was like one of the last movies that I watched of the year, and I'm so happy I watched this. I really liked it. This is based on a true story about the woman who created Bumble, which is an online dating app. The things that I learned in this, I am so happy. I was never a Tinder girly. I was never into Tinder, never liked it, never used it, and never will. But she literally was like one of the founders of Tinder, helped create Tinder, and then the other 3 guys who also created and founded Tinder were horrible to her and like essentially just erased her from anything to do with Tinder. It was awful, but this story was so well told. I love Lily James. She is also someone where I'm like, if I see her in a movie, I'm gonna watch that movie. And yeah, I think this was a great movie, and I enjoyed my time watching it, even though it made me mad at men, more mad than I already am at men. At number 9, I have Good Fortune. I am so happy I loved this movie. This was like a really funny movie that had a lot of heart and some good lessons in there, and was like really showing you like the evils, not so much the evils of capitalism, but like the way our society is, it is not good and we need to change. But we have Keanu Reeves, who's an angel. He's mainly a guardian angel for texting and driving, but he wants to like really change someone's life. So he finds Aziz Ansari, who is really down on his luck, essentially now living in his car. He's doing all these different odd jobs, really just trying to get by, and is at the end of his rope and just like wants his life to be over. And so Keanu Reeves comes down and is like, hey, let me show you that, you know, the life that you want is not all that. And so he has Aziz switch places with Seth Rogen, who Seth Rogen is like this very high up, like I want to say investor kind of position or job that he has. He's not really like a CEO, but he's got a lot of money, and he's got his hands in a bunch of different things as well. And Aziz was like working for him for about a week until he was fired for something that he probably shouldn't have done, but like you also understand because of his circumstances why he did it. But they switch places. And so like now Seth Rogen has Aziz's life, Aziz has Seth Rogen's life, and they're both like learning the pros and cons of their life and really putting themselves in the other person's shoes. And it was very funny, but also like I think a very good lesson to learn. At number 8, I have Jane Austen Wrecked My Life. This is a French movie that most of it's in French, but there is some English because we are in England for most of the movie. But this is about a woman who, down on her luck with romance, also trying to write a book, but like has been writing books for years, but just never finishing them because she just can never finish and send anything to anybody. But she works at a bookstore. She works at Shakespeare and Company in France. And one day her friend sends in some of her work to the Jane Austen residency, and then they send her a letter, be like, hey, we would like for you to come visit our residency and like do some writing and work here for like a week or whatever. Her friend and her sister convince her to go, and right as she leaves, her and her friend, like, they kiss and they have like this romantic moment, and it was like, oh my god, yes. And she goes to the residency and she meets like the son of the owners. She meets the owners, but like the son of the owner is the one who like picks her up and drives her there. And they are really not hitting it off in the beginning. But then they also start to like form a romance with each other while she's also still trying to write a dang book, which she can't seem to do. So it's like she's torn between these two guys, and she's also just like really trying to find herself so she can get out of this like writing slump that she's in and just like write a book. And I loved it. I actually recently rewatched it just a few days ago with my roommate. It's one of those movies that like is just like it's slow and it's beautiful, and I love the shots. Like the whoever directed and like did the cinematography, like so good. And probably my favorite part about the movie. But we were also discussing that like the end does end a little too abruptly. Like I think we just wanted a little bit more of the ending. But overall, a very beautiful romance story that I really liked, and I honestly kind of want to watch it again, even though I just watched it. At number 7, I have Materialists. This is another romance. We have Dakota Johnson, who is a matchmaker. That's her job. She finds women and she helps match them with their perfect guy. She has an ex, Chris Evans, who things didn't go well. They fought a lot, and it was mainly like about money and finances, and it just didn't work out. She also meets Pedro Pascal, who is kind of like the unicorn of men. He's rich, he's handsome, he's got a great personality, like everything about him is just like wonderful and perfect. And so she has a relationship with Pedro. She starts like going on dates with him, but every now and then she keeps running into Chris Evans. And they're also having these like really like great moments together too. And it's just like, in the end, who does she decide? But then she also has problems going on with her career and her job with matchmaking, because something happens with one of her clients that's just like really not okay. And it's just kind of like, how is the company handling this? And it starts making her lose faith in being able to match people with who they're meant to be with. This was a movie that made me cry, and I really liked it. At number 6, I have Companion. This was one of the first movies that I watched this year, and it was at my number 1 for a very long time. There weren't a lot of great movies in the beginning of the year. They more so came towards the end of the year. I like don't want to spoil it, but I do know that the trailer kind of spoils something, but to me I'm glad I knew that going in. But like it's supposed to be like a big reveal. But we have this woman, she's dating this guy, played by Jack Quaid, which I loved Jack Quaid in this movie. I love seeing like an evil side of him. They're like in a relationship, she's meeting his friends for the first time, and they're like in this house that's kind of like hidden away in like the forest or in some trees or whatever. But things kind of go crazy. There's some murdering that happens. It's so hard to like not give away a spoiler, even though it's like such a big part of the story. But it was so good, so fascinating, and like truly a good like feminist movie. Like, men suck and women need to fight back. So yeah, that's all I've got for that movie. At number 5, I have The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. So like I mentioned, I finally watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy for the first time this year. It was at a friend's birthday party. She essentially just wanted to watch all of the Lord of the Rings movies, so I was there for the entire day watching all these movies. And we had And like all of our food was themed around the Lord of the Rings. So it was just like a really great experience. I was also the only one there who had never seen the movies. So they were really excited to see someone watch the movies for the first time. So like at the end of every movie, they kept turning to me, were like, what did you think? And I'm so happy that I really loved Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I'd be happy to watch the extended versions. We did not watch the extended versions because that was literally going to take more than all day, and all day is enough time. But maybe one day I will eventually watch the extended versions of these movies. But I really liked the first one within this trilogy, which is this one. Yeah, I think we all know what Lord of the Rings is about. I don't think I need to really talk about it. But like now finally understanding, because I always heard about like Frodo and Samwise and Mordor, and like I heard, like I've seen the memes of like one does not simply walk into Mordor. You know, I've seen the memes, I've known the characters, but like to now actually have context for all that stuff that I knew or heard briefly before, I'm happy about. And I don't have much to say. I think we all know like The Lord of the Rings is actually a fantastic trilogy, and this was a great movie. At number 4, I have Eternity. I haven't really been looking around at what other people thought of this movie, but I loved this movie. This movie is like the only movie I think of the year 2025 that made me laugh and cry. But I just also love this concept. It's a rom-com with Miles Teller and Elizabeth Olsen, and I forget his name, but I believe he's married to Dua Lipa. Miles Teller, he dies. Okay, he was an old man in life, but when he died, he comes back as like the best age that he was. Like the age that he was the happiest. So, and that's him as Miles Teller. And before going to like your afterlife, you get assigned someone who helps you pick your eternity. And basically that means you get to choose who you're going to spend eternity with and where you're going to spend it. And he's like, definitely like my wife, but I gotta wait for her to die. A week goes by, she's dead. They're like, okay, now let's like pick our eternity and like go there together and be with each other. And there's like so many different options of eternities. But her first husband, who had died in the war way before she died, like so long ago, he is still there. He had been waiting for her and wants to go into eternity with her. So now she has to decide between these two husbands. It was so funny, but also so moving, and I loved the romance within this. And it was just, yeah, it's a fun concept, and I thought it was done so well. And I loved all of the characters that we had. Truly wonderful. Had a fun time with this one. At number 3, I have Hamnet. Hamnet, you guys. I was in that movie. I was in that theater sobbing. It was also one of those movies where like the movie ended, nobody left. Like every one of us sat in that movie for at least 5 minutes during the credits, just like crying. I heard a couple of like sniffles throughout the theater, but it definitely felt like in that room, one of those movies where like you had to just sit with what you just watched. It's quite a sad movie. It's about William Shakespeare. It's also based on a book that I have not read, but I now need to read this book. But it's based off of William Shakespeare and his wife, and the death of their son, Hamnet, and how dealing with that grief and all of that helped him write Hamlet, one of his most famous plays. And also one of my favorite plays of his. In case you don't know, I am a Shakespeare girly. I love Shakespeare. I have read a lot of Shakespeare, and there's still more that I need to read. And I unfortunately didn't get to any Shakespeare in the year 2025. I've kind of taken a little bit of a break, but I need to get back into Shakespeare. But it was just, I think also too, this is some of the best acting I have ever seen in a movie. Hands down. I am so happy that Jessie Buckley won. Because if she didn't win, I would have been so pissed off. The Golden Globes has recently happened as I'm filming this. And she won for Best Actress in that movie. So deserved. Because like I watched that and I was like, I have never seen someone act like that before. It was incredible. And this story is so moving and so like grieving and so haunting and just so It's like sad and beautiful at the same time, which is like so hard to do, but I love when a movie can do that. And Paul Mescal was just incredible as well. I don't know who this little boy is or how these like casting directors find incredible child actors, but this kid, so good. So good. Like how? How is a little child that good at acting? What did the director do to make him do that? Oh, it was so good. This is like a movie that will stick with me forever and has just really made an imprint on my heart. I feel like I just quoted Wicked for good. But that's okay. All right, number 2, I have The Threesome. This is one of my only 5 stars of the year. I did not have a lot of 5 stars, which is unfortunate. I'm honestly thinking about changing my rating for Hamnet to be 5 stars. I don't know why it's not. But anyway, The Threesome, I went into it being like, who knows, we'll see. I might like it, I might not. But I walked out of that theater with a 5-star feeling in my bones, and I was so happy about it. We have our guy who's in a relationship with this girl. Like, we see him get into a relationship with this girl, and we see their relationship bloom and blossom, but then they meet this other girl and they want to try a threesome. Then all of a sudden, that girl that they had a threesome with is like, hey, so I'm pregnant. And so it starts causing like a rift in the relationship with our main couple, because now he's got to go be a dad and like a fake boyfriend for this other girl. And it gets really messy and chaotic. But I had such a fun time with this. And I do think that like, this is such a complicated movie in the sense that like, everyone in their arguments has a point. Like, I get where you're coming from, and I understand. Like, you have a right to feel that way that you are feeling. But it's like, at the end of the day, like, it just gets so messy because now there's like a kid involved with someone who's not even within their relationship. And it's like, is he going to end up with one of them? Is he going to end up with none of them? Like, how is this going to go? But I think it did a really great job discussing all of those different aspects and topics of this movie and all those different viewpoints. So I highly recommend The Threesome if you ever get a chance. And then my number 1 movie of the year is also a 5-star, and that is The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. This was an incredible movie. I think we all know it. I am just one of the last people to know it. Return of the King is the last in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and it was fantastic, which is also shocking because when movies do trilogies these days, it's like usually the first one is always the best one, and then the last one is usually like the worst one. So to have the last movie in the trilogy be the best movie is so rare and refreshing to see, but also like this one made me sob. Oh my god, I was crying my eyes out at the end. But just like the journey that all these characters go on and to see how it all comes to an end was just so satisfying. It was so well done. I still don't think I'm going to read the books for Lord of the Rings. Who knows? I'll never say never. But I have read like few little snippets here and there, and it's not my style of writing that I like to read. I don't have anything really to say about this movie because I think, again, I'm the last one here to see it and discuss it. So we all know how incredible this movie is. And yes, it is incredible. I have no complaints about this movie whatsoever. And there you have it. Those are my movies of 2025. I hope you enjoyed this. I also did the same thing with my books as well as the TV shows that I read and watched in 2025. I will link those down below. And I will see you guys later with more videos, hopefully. I know I kind of took a break for the year 2025 with videos, but I want to get back to doing videos for you guys. So yeah, so here's to hoping you see me in more videos. Okay, bye.